Okay, so welcome to Meet the Candidate. And my guest for this session is Cindy Wendle. She is running for Spokane City Council President. Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you.
This is your get acquainted opportunity, non-political interview, just asking questions like, so where did you grow up and go to school?
Well, I grew up in Pullman, Washington, so just south here, about 75 miles where Washington State University is. It was really fun growing up in a college town. Because we blended small rural life. I had a lot of friends that lived out in the country and had enjoyed the country life. My parents were small business owners and we lived in town. But we had the opportunity to go up to a Pac-10 at the time, Pac-10 school and experience sports, the arts, and just even science labs. I mean, classes from high school that they would take us up there. So it was a really unique opportunity. And so I graduated from Pullman High School.
Okay. And any formal education or training after high school?
So I left Pullman to go to Seattle, which for a lot of people seemed odd that I would go from a WSU town to a UW town.
Well, lots of people want to get out of town after high school, though.
Exactly right. Like, okay, 18 years is probably long enough. But I did go to Seattle to the University of Washington. I graduated with a business degree in marketing and human resources from UW. While I was there, I interned with the athletic department. Sports was always a big part of growing up in Pullman, of course, in small towns, right? But I always worked as well. I actually volunteered helping to recruit athletes and our corporate donors to games and whatnot. So that was a really fun experience. It made UW seem a lot smaller than the huge school that it is. So I really got to love Seattle. And I lived there in the summertime one summer and just tried to take in all of Seattle because growing up in a small town, you just didn't get that opportunity very often. So I loved Seattle. But graduated from UW and then moved back over here to Spokane.
So what brought you back?
My husband. Met him when I was a senior in college. And I, at the time, was on my way to Missoula, Montana to sell, well, mostly horse trailers and trucks for a dealer in Missoula. But quickly decided that as we were dating, I didn't want to have a long-term relationship or a long-distance relationship. And so I moved back to Spokane and had an apartment with a couple girlfriends. And then we were engaged and married a year later and called Spokane home.
Okay. And you've got non-school activities that really fascinated you as you were growing up? What drew your attention?
You know, it was sports, a lot of it, but also I was involved with Junior Miss, the program in Pullman. At the time, they changed the name, so it was Young Woman of the Year. But what was really fascinating about that program is you do realize it's not a pageant program. Right. It really was a life skills training, a lot of interview training, a lot of relationship building skills with people that you don't know. That we came up to Lilac Festival and I had a room with 3 other girls I didn't know from all over the state. And it was one of the best times of my life. And you get to meet so many people. So that experience in high school, even though it seemed, like a small town type thing, that really set a foundation for what I was wanting to do and what I was attracted to doing as an adult. Because it really instilled a lot of confidence. The ability to work with people that had differing points of view on things. It was a fabulous experience. But I worked a lot too. I started working jobs when I was 13 years old at the city pool. And it's always been something I enjoyed doing, even against the wish of my parents. But I went to my neighbor, my best friend's dad was the parks director at the city. And I was just begging for a job. And he said, well, your parents don't agree with this, but they have to sign this form if you want to work. And so they begrudgingly did. But I worked at grocery stores and my parents' small business and worked all the way through college too at small jobs as well.
Okay. Well, what do you think you brought away from some of that business experience besides an interest in business for yourself?
I think the biggest thing was being so amazed at how people will rise up. And when you work with really good managers and people that put aside really what's best for them, it's what's best for the bigger goal and the organization. But really what's the most important is when you work with people to find out what they're good at, what they're passionate about, and to help them succeed. So really it wasn't about, what I saw in well-run organizations was it wasn't about the managers, it wasn't about them, it was about the people that they were leading and trying to help them rise up and be the best they can be.
Okay. Well, one of the questions I ask is, how do you see the duties of council president, the duties of the role that you're running for?
As a strong leader, somebody that wants to communicate and not build walls, but take them down, to make sure that we hold people accountable to listening, to listen to all sides of the issue, and to really ask good questions, to not shut ourselves out from partnerships. And so really, the powers of the council president are more or less in the role of as a leader and not as a policy setter. And that's where I see my role the best.
Okay. One of the things I also have often asked is where are the places that you've lived or traveled that have influenced this approach to leadership? You kind of mentioned a little bit about your experience with the now it's Young Women of Distinction, I think,
Yes.
program. Is there some other experiences that you bring to this facilitation role?
You know, my parents grew up in southern Idaho, and my uncles had cattle ranches and feedlots. And so I looked like, okay, internationally, if you traveled, all these great things you bring back. Honestly, the things I probably made the most impact on my life were working with them on the ranch and standing next to my grandma at the kitchen counter and just working with her and how much she cared for people and how much love there was among neighbors and taking care of each other. That's probably, honestly, the biggest part. It's a phenomenal, small rural America has incredible lessons that we can learn and extend everywhere in what we do.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you this last minute for your pitch. Why should people vote for Cindy Wendle for Spokane Council President?
The biggest reason, I think, is what's imperative for where we are right now in a junction is taking political agendas out of city government. The race that I'm running for is nonpartisan for a reason, and I really believe that we can achieve so much more if we work together and stop shutting out ideas and really putting our egos at the door, putting our political agendas at the door, and coming in with an open mind that how we're going to tackle these really difficult issues that we have facing us.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.